Article 11 of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo required the United States to come up with an Indian policy for Texas, and it would change the fate of native peoples forever. The indigenous people living north of the U.S.-Mexican border were the complete responsibility of the United States, and its army would be required to enforce this requirement. Authorities broke the army regiments that had seen hard service in Mexico in the 1840s into small detachments of a few dozen to a few hundred men and gave them the role of a frontier constabulary. At first, these troops, nearly a quarter of the standing army of the United States, operated from a line of forts established shortly after Texas annexation. These posts served as a cordon to not only contain the natives, but also to guard key crossing points on the Rio Grande. Events quickly made these positions obsolete. The 1848 discovery of gold in California changed Indian policy. The United States Army explored routes across the West to move American travelers toward the Pacific coast. Soldiers and scouts, including some Comanches, Delawares, and other natives working for the government, blazed trails across western Texas. Captain Randolph Barnes Marcy explored a route from Fort Smith, Arkansas to Santa Fe, then looped back through North Texas. Lieutenant Edward Fitzgerald Beale also surveyed roads in West Texas, and William H. Emery led an expedition to survey the international border with Mexico. Other parties mapped out a road linking San Antonio with El Paso. By the end of the 1850s, U.S. troops had moved their line of forts farther into West Texas and established garrisons along the roads leading toward California. Supplied from San Antonio and Fort Smith, Arkansas, these remote outposts signaled the rapid decline of the once mighty Comanche presence in the region. The Numina no longer controlled much of their former domain. In 1853, the weakened Comanches and their allies met with federal authorities at Fort Atkinson, Kansas, and agreed to accommodate U.S. requests for passage across their territory in exchange for food, clothing, and supplies. The Treaty of Fort Atkinson essentially erased the boundaries of Comancheria, which had stood for decades and had indelibly shaped Texas history. The Numina and other people indigenous to Texas faced hard choices. Lawmakers in Austin authorized the creation of Indian reservations on the upper Brazos River to be managed by troops at Fort Belknap and Camp Cooper. Robert Simpson neighbors helped guide more than 1,000 Wichitas and Caddos to the area, but Comanches remained split over the idea. They had once ruled the southern Great Plains and enjoyed a vast trade empire built on horses and buffalo. A reservation would mean the end, forever, to that dream. Leaders including Tecumseh willingly moved to the designated lands where food and shelter would be guaranteed. Seneca led his followers out to the canyonlands of the Palo Duro to try and maintain a traditional life. Buffalo Hump, the veteran of hard fights with the Texans, tried to simply fade away in the Wichita Mountains across the Red River. The lure of the old ways remained strong, however, and the end of the 1850s saw a last spasm of Comanche independence. Comanches on the plains drew the ire of politicians reacting to stories of raids and atrocities. The Army launched a series of campaigns assisted and augmented by Texas Rangers. In one battle near the Pease River, Texan Lawrence Sullivan Ross is credited with recovering the famous captive, Cynthia Ann Parker. After nearly 25 years with the Numina, she considered herself Comanche. She did not survive long after she returned to her Texas family. They said she was heartbroken.